Welcome back to On Texas Football. I'm CJ Vogel, joined by always with Gerry Hamilton for a little Friday night recruiting update. Let's get to it real quick. Texas Relays going on campus right now at the Mike A. Myers Stadium and Complex right now, which means there's a lot of out-of-town visitors, a lot of prospects, football players that Texas has interest in right now. Of course, Jerry's out there monitoring everything else, right, in terms of what's going on at Moody as well, but we'll focus solely on the current day out there on Friday for the Texas Relays. A few big 2026 visitors on campus. Jerry, We'll start with the tight end position. How about that? We'll start with Mark Bowman and Caden Prothrow, expected to come in tomorrow afternoon. But Mark Bowman on campus currently, the five-star tight end out of Mater Dei. Jerry, what's the latest on him, and what did you see out there this afternoon?
Yeah, well, one of the first things I saw this afternoon was Carl Lewis, a coach of the U of H track team. So that's always cool to see guys who have tons of Olympic medals and are great singers, by the way. But Mark Bowman got in town for an unofficial visit. I saw him a few minutes ago. I posted a photo on Twitter. He's in town with his mother and father. And so there's some Texas ties with Mark Bowman, the five-star tight end out of Mater Dei, who reclassed from 27 to 2026 recently, number one tight end in the country. Here's the key. When he reclassed, we were told, on Texas Football is told, it's going to be Texas or Georgia. Now, we do think Oregon's in it. We do think USC's trying to make a play, but we continue to think Texas and Georgia are the pick here. What's interesting, his father was actually born in Texas, in Louisville, Texas, up in the DFW area. Obviously, I think he moved out of Texas when he was 6-7 years old, around that time. But they lived in Colorado a long time. So it's not like they've been in SoCal, which is some interesting pieces to this recruitment. And I'll say something else. When they left Colorado, because when it became understood that Mark was being elite football talent, they looked at places to move for him. And those places were Mater Dei, South Lake Carroll, and Austin Westlake. So if you're Sark, you have to like your chances a little bit here, but Georgia's very much in it too. But Mark Bowman on campus, the five-star tight end, he will be back June 6th through 8th for an official visit. But big news for Texas to get him on campus now and then the official visit in June. And look, we believe Texas has at least a 50-50 shot here, Texas and Georgia, with Oregon and USC also in the mix for number one tight end in the country.
Yeah, and of course, that's what I wanted to hit on as well, Jerry. I mean, this is the number one tight end in the country currently, and this is after a reclassification from 2027 to 2026. So that speaks to, one, the physical development already, but two, how well he's able to move and how physical he is on the football field. Would this, if Texas were to land him, where would he kind of stack up in terms of previous tight ends? I know you're a big fan of Nick Townsend and Jordan Washington. Where does he kind of land on that list?
As a prospect, he's right there with Nick Townsend, and he plays tight end. So, look, he's probably ahead of Townsend just because he plays tight end exclusively, and Nick Townsend played everywhere Dekaney needed him to, including short snapper and long snapper. But talent-wise, him and Townsend are right there together, and I like Jordan Washington too. I think Bowman and Townsend they're pretty much a high cut above most guys nationally at tight end. And by the way, CJ, Bowman's not the only tight end scheduled to be in this weekend. Right. Caden Prothrow out of Bowden, Georgia, small town near Manchester where Justice Terry's from. He's scheduled to be in town Saturday as well. Supposed to get in either tonight or in the morning. So we'll be monitoring that tomorrow for the big recruiting weekend. But two of the two top tight end targets on the board for the Longhorns on campus this weekend, barring a change with Prothrow late.
And of course, one from Georgia, one from California. Texas continuing to recruit areas that produce big-time talent. Speaking of reclassifications, Jerry, you mentioned Mark Bowman, another reclass to 2026, another top target, Xavier Crowell, running back out of Alabama, on campus today for the second of a three-day visit down to Austin. Got in last night. Obviously was with the staff, was golf carting around. But the latest on Xavier Crowell leads me to think that Texas is right in the thick of things with Auburn and Alabama.
Yeah, I think Alabama's really got the foot on the pedal here. And so Texas is up against Coach Gillespie and Alabama, working really, really hard to keep maybe the number one or two running back in this class, him or Derek Cooper at the end of the day, to keep him home in the state of Alabama. Auburn and Georgia also in the mix, Florida State on the peripheral. But this is Xavier Crowell's third visit to Austin and to Texas with multiple family members, and he'll be back June 6th through 8th for an official visit. Then he has Georgia the weekend before. Then he's got Auburn the 13th through 15th, and Alabama gets that last visit. I think FSU may get a midweek or something, but Alabama gets that last visit. And not for the faint of heart, but if you look at the old Instagram prom photos, it looks pretty good for Alabama on there, CJ. Yeah. I think we looked at those earlier. But, it's recruiting, so we'll see what happens. But Texas, big first impression opportunity for Chad Scott, getting to spend a lot of time around the Texas staff. I failed to mention Arch Manning spent a lot of time with Mark Bowman after walk-through practice this morning for the Longhorns. So Texas all hands on deck with Mark Bowman. Texas is all hands on deck with Xavier Crowell. Trey Wisner's been with him a lot, along with Sark and Chad Scott. So it's a big recruitment there, arguably the top running back on the board for Texas. And Alabama's going to make it really tough. And, Auburn's going to be there in the end. And Georgia, I mean, it's a bloodbath, knockdown, drag out SEC recruiting battle for one of the top running backs in America.
Of course, I was going to mention for Xavier Crowell specifically, it was about this time last year, Jerry, where he and his family made the trip to Austin for a similar type visit like this year, right? A multi-day visit by himself on a small visit weekend in terms of prospects on campus specifically. So we'll see if that builds and compounds to some favorable movement towards the Longhorns here. Another prospect on campus that is actually competing in the Texas Relays is Panther Creek cornerback Jalen Lott. Or I'll say athlete. Look, he is a tremendous athlete, and there's plenty of – we've talked about it. LSU, Oregon, Ohio State, all recruiting him a wide receiver. Texas and Georgia mostly recruiting at cornerback with some conversations about both sides, a package potentially. But back on campus, we'll see the staff either on Saturday or Sunday, depending on how he did Friday afternoon at Mike A. Myers Stadium for the Texas Relays. But, Jerry, what's the latest on Jalen Lott that you've heard?
Yeah, so I think this recruitment's got a long way to go, right? And I know people have put in Oregon picks, and I think Oregon's done a really good job with him. They're really selling him on wide receiver at Oregon. And, look, I think Jalen Lott's open to playing either, right? I think he's open to playing either one. I do know that Jalen will meet with Texas, like you said, after the conclusion, the day following when he's done with his events here at the Texas Relays. I think his family's already met with Steve Sarkisian. They can meet with him at any time. The prospect can't until the day after the Texas Relays conclude in terms of his competition in the event. But I think Oregon, USC, his sister runs track at USC, I believe. But I think Texas is going to be right there at the end. Texas, Oregon, USC, LSU, Ohio State are your schools. And he's going to officially visit Texas June 13th through 15th, Oregon the 20th through 22nd. And I know USC's in it, and I know LSU gets a visit, but it won't surprise me if it doesn't come down to those two last visits.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Again, I saw Jalen up in McKinney North for their invitational track meet as well. Very much the same sentiment. Watch out for those 5 schools. LSU is a sneaky one. If you start looking at schools where, there might be not a lot of buzz at the moment in terms of the big picture here, they're a sneaky school here. Another prospect I wanted to mention that will be visiting tomorrow, Jerry, for the Texas – I'll call it like a mini junior day. Jaquan Snell out of Waxahachie was on campus. He was competing today in the Texas Relays as well. Interesting note, Texas and Snell had not previously been in communication for quite a while. Obviously, they kind of linked up, said, let's get you back on campus, and immediately he comes down to compete and also see the staff. He'll be on campus Saturday morning to mingle around, see Dwayne Aquina and the Texas staff as well. But that's a good segue, Jerry, for a quick word about our sponsor, Von Lane. And then we got another word for our newest nickel offer, Jaheim Riley, as well as some updates on a couple of 2026 safeties. But real quick, Jerry, take us to the finish line here.
Man, this is a great time to talk about Von Lane. Everybody driving from everywhere to Austin, converging on Austin for the Texas Relays and visits. Why not Von Lane? Von Lane is the company of Rod Babers when he travels from Austin to Houston and Austin to Dallas. Tired of hassle or flying or driving in Texas? Driving yourself on I-35, I-45, or I-10 is very, very stressful. Airports, long lines, security stress, cramped seats. Just getting to your destination can feel exhausting, more so than ever. Next time you travel between Austin, Dallas, Houston, Fort Worth, or San Antonio, skip the stress and just ride Von Lane, your private jet on wheels. And boy, is that true. Arrive just minutes before departure at one of Vaughn Lane's centrally located luxurious hotel partners. Settle into your spacious reclining seat with tons of leg room and personal space. Enjoy complimentary snacks, drinks, Wi-Fi, and even meals on select departures, all while you sit back and relax in amazing seats on Vaughn Lane. Experience travel the way it should be. Visit vaughnlane.com and use the promo code OTF, all caps 25, for 20% off your first trip. Vaughn Lane, first class travel without hassle. Again, vaughnlane.com, promo code OTF25 for $20 off your first trip. And thanks to Vaughn Lane for being a great sponsor of On Texas Football.
Perfect, Jerry. Thank you very much for that word on Vaughn Lane. But we talked about a big 2027 in-state safety, Jaquan Snell. Talk to us a little bit about a pair of 2026 safeties, where we think Texas is headed forward in this class.
Yeah, Jet Washington from Bishop Gorman, Las Vegas, a nephew of the late Kobe Bryant, a tremendous two-sport player, football and basketball, but really starting to trend towards football. He's scheduled to be on campus the first week in April. Now, he plays in a 7-on-7 event in Dallas, April 4th through 6th. So he's either going to come in a day before for a visit, or he's going to stay after for a day for a visit to Texas. And Jet Washington, 6'4.5", 200 pounds, 5 interceptions as a junior. Johnny Nansen was by to school in January. The new defensive back additions, Dwayne Aquina, what have you. Texas is recruiting him. Sark's been in contact as hard as they possibly can. And Jet Washington, the teams, the competition, it's around the country, but some of these teams are Ohio State, Oregon, USC, obviously, Michigan, Notre Dame, Georgia, Texas A&M, you name it. Everybody's on Jet Washington. Then the second safety that we're hearing more and more Texas picking up on is Devon Benjamin out of Westlake Village, California, Oaks Christian, 6 foot 185. We think he's going to make an official visit this spring, potentially an official visit. Strong competition there. Oregon, USC, Ohio State, Miami, couple of others. But those two out-of-state safeties, one at Bishop Gorman, Jet Washington, one at Oaks Christian in Westlake Village, California, Devon Benjamin. Those guys are kind of rising right now on the Texas board, and they're both top safeties nationally in the country in the class of 26. And then, CJ, I'll let you saw the most recent offer at the nickel position, Kenodo Hudson, the guy he's going after in state, Yaheem Riley at Austin Anderson, formerly of Austin LBJ. What can you tell folks about Yaheem Riley?
Yeah, the first offer for Kenodo Hudson as a Texas Longhorn assistant coach. Of course, coaching the nickels is kind of circled and honed in on Yaheem Riley as his first target there, Jerry. I was able to see him at a band performance training session with Bernard Blake. Obviously, that should be a familiar name. Andrew McCuba, Jade Barron. You look at Michael Tapp, Jelani McDonald, all trained with Bernard Blake down here in Austin. Yaheem Riley now in that mix as well. But I would say 5'11 and a half, close to 6 foot, probably 180, 185 in that range. Moves very well, but there's still plenty of potential growth there. Currently committed to Houston. He made that commitment back in December. But that offer by Texas, I think, is something that he's closely monitoring. I would expect him on campus very soon, whether that be this weekend, whether that be a weekend following, a trip to Austin this spring to catch a practice, to meet with Coach Hudson, to meet with Coach PK and the rest of that staff, very much in play. And I would expect this to be that's something that Texas has a great in on when it comes to proximity, when it comes to playing with Coach Finner as well, a guy that coached him his freshman year at Austin LBJ. So, yeah, Texas in a great spot here should they go all the way in. And right now it sounds like they are very much intrigued by the Austin Anderson defensive back prospect. So we'll keep you updated with the latest on ontexasfootball.com. Jerry, thank you very much. And we've got 4 minutes rolling up with Yaheem Riley right now. So stay tuned for the latest and hear it from Yaheem himself right now. But, Jerry, any final words before we get out of here?
No, that's it. Going to be a big weekend on the 40. Recruiting tomorrow. A lot of visitors will be on campus, and we'll have a thread on ontexasfootball.com. Keep you up to date on everything that goes on the 40 here. Big weekend, and obviously basketball recruiting stuff could break at any time. We have a thread on Texas football right now that is called the Texas Roster, Staff, and Portal thread, which is a lot of fun. So go check that out as well on basketball recruiting and basketball team news.
Absolutely. Well, Jerry, thank you very much, and have a good one. Welcome.